She brews good ale, and thereof comes the proverb, blessing of the heart, you brew good ale. What's up, beer lovers and future beer lovers? I'm Alice from Beer Licking Good. I'm a beer sommelier based in Munich, Germany, the heart of Bavaria, and I'm here to teach you all things beer related. And I chose today's topic because obviously I'm a woman and I love beer, and there are a lot of women out there who love beer or think about getting into beer in one way or another. But still we are very underrepresented, and to show you that women and beer belong together since, well, ever, I started this episode with a Shakespeare quote. Even Shakespeare talked about women and beer. But before we dive into today's episode, just a tiny bit of self-promotion. In the description below you have a link to my website where you can find a gorgeous ebook about 5 Bavarian beers, 5 traditional Bavarian beers that are worth knowing about. Just go to my website, subscribe to my newsletter, and get that ebook as a thank you. And if you're excited about today's episode, because I surely am, push that subscribe button and the notification bell if you haven't already, and let's just dive into it. The sentences I just quoted are from Two Gentlemen of Verona. And in that particular sequence, 2 gentlemen talk about the virtues of a certain woman. One of them reads them aloud from a piece of paper, all the virtues this woman possesses. And of course, among all the virtues like sewing and knitting and whatever virtues women used to be blessed with in the 16th century. And among these virtues, there is brewing good ale or good beer. That shows that brewing beer was already part of a woman's set of skills back then, and it was a very desired one. But already a few centuries before, a German woman called Hildegard von Bingen wrote about beer and the importance of using hops in beer. It's the first written record of what hops does to beer, namely preserving it. No one else wrote about preserving beer with hops before, so this was like groundbreaking. So the first person ever who discovered this particular quality in hops and wrote about it was a woman. And that was around the year 1150, so middle of the 12th century. But actually, the relationship between beer and woman is much, much older, because every beer goddesses in ancient civilizations were actually female. And also, brewing beer was a task that women had. The Sumerians, who are thought by many to have invented the first beers, were grain farmers. And often they had a lot of surplus of grain. And in order to use that grain, women brew beer. And people came together and drank this beer. And this is how cities started to build. So the first Sumerian cities were actually built in order to be able to drink that beer. Okay, I'm far-reaching here, but you have to admit it's a fun theory. But there is a certain percentage of truth in this theory, because people actually really drank beer in big gatherings, out of big pots with straws. Straws because back then beer had a lot of sediments, it wasn't like the beer we know today. And there were large gatherings of people to celebrate bringing in the crops. So surplus of grain led to brewing beer. Beer was brewed by women. So women provided the beer. Beer led to people coming together. People coming together led to building cities. So beer led to building cities. Well, actually, women led to building cities. Okay, but fun aside, why am I telling you this? Well, the beer industry is a very white-centered, male-dominated industry. And even the craft beer industry. I mean, I read an article the other day it was written about the traditional Munich beers like Helles and Dunkels and Hefeweizen, all beers that you can find in my ebook about 5 Bavarian beers. And at the end of the article, it said something like, if you're looking for some experimental beer, there's also a craft beer scene in Munich. In these craft beer bars, you will see tattooed men with long beards and tunnel rings in their ears. So this is the way the craft beer scene in Munich is represented in a blog article on a Munich website. So a website about the city of Munich, especially for tourists. And this is also the image that most people that I know have about the craft beer scene and beer brewing in general. Also, if you check out all the beer channels on YouTube, you will hardly find any woman talking about beer. Among all the hundreds of beer channels out there, you barely see a woman talking about beer. And that's why I can say with absolute confidence that the world of beer needs more women in it. Seriously, just search for best beer ads ever and you will see, especially in the older one, you see like 100% men, or if there's a woman protagonist, it's just so that she can bring the beer to her husband or something like that. Women are just standbyers or props at best. Only in the last couple of years, beer ads have started becoming more inclusive and seeing women as equals when sharing and drinking beer. So we are way underrepresented, and I'm not even talking about minorities like people of color or trans people. That's an even sadder story when it comes to representation. But back to women and beer, and one of the reasons why I started this channel actually. I love women, I'm married to one, and I think that we should just show ourselves more. We should just get out there, show our love for beer, show what we know and what we can do, and how we can contribute to the development of the craft beer industry, because let's face it, this is the future of beer and beer industry. If we want to have a better world, better beer is definitely one of the answers. And with better beer, I don't just mean taste-wise, but also I mean ingredient-wise and environment-wise. And craft beer brewers think more of these things and don't just think of efficiency. They really think how all these different parts are involved, like crops and farmers and environment and nature. So yeah, women can contribute to the development of the craft beer industry. Women already do, and I think they need to be represented, and not just in articles about women and beer, but also when talking about beer in general. It's something I wish for the future, also from all these great beer channels like the Craft Beer channel, or there are a few German beer channels as well that I like. I think we can bring so much passion and creativity to the table. And I think that if women beer professionals and minority beer professionals like people of color or trans people, if they get better represented, we can also bring a lot more new beer lovers to the table, literally to the table. So that's why I'm here, partly because I also want to bring more women to the table. That being said, have a nice weekend. Cheers and Prost.